Oh, hey everybody! We are live! We are playing, of course, the beta. We are, the Destiny beta, rather, sorry. I'm trying to get the stream up on my phone here. This way I can actually, continue to be able to read your comments. So there, it says I'm live, got the comments up, got everything running. So, beta is pretty much the same as it was. Nothing new has changed. It's still the same this, same this, same this. So no new things there. However, I do believe that it's still worth playing. Stress test the servers, get used to the mechanics and stuff, like the new mechanics and everything, and get used to the new 4v4 and stuff like that. So for sure, we're gonna play a little bit of this quick play here on the low intensity Crucible. And then we're going to get up to, after a few games of this, we're going to go ahead and hop on the high intensity, get that shit going, and then we might even run a strike or two. And by a strike or two, I mean the same strike one or two times. Just trying to get, used to the weapons, the mechanics, all of this shit that makes this game such a great game. I'm really liking the looks of the beta so far. I'm actually impressed. My only complaint so far, aside, well, I really don't have very many complaints. My issues right now are with some of the subclasses. I feel like the subclasses, like in Destiny 1, they aren't as well balanced as it may come across, where certain subclasses, when you use a super, it'll melt other people in the Crucible, and other supers aren't gonna melt necessarily. I feel like there's a bit of unfair advantages with the Hunter. Some of the Hunter melees are doing a lot more damage than I think others are, and it's not like there's a level advantage there. We're all light level 200, level 20 in this beta, so I'm just gonna assume that, I guess depending on what settings you use, you could probably find a more evenly matched, but I think that they're not as evenly matched as they could be. I'm not a big fan of this subclass either. That one I don't like. This one right here, the Sentinel. I honestly would prefer Void, the bubble, rather than this. To me, this just seems silly. I guess it does have this. I guess I think it's a little. Oh, I guess I don't know. Maybe I'm just bitching out my ass here, but by the looks of it, they made it so that way even your defender subclass that would allow you to defend your teammates can also be used as an offense, which I guess is a pretty interesting design. My other complaint right now is just character creation, that you couldn't create characters in the beta, and I know that's a weird thing to complain about. Of course, it is a beta. What's the point of building a character? If it's just going to disappear. And my only rebuttal to that is I know for a fact from what I've seen of the first game when it had its beta release, it was they had player customizing, like you could customize your character. So I know that it was in the old beta and it directly translated to the full game. And what I'm worried is that because that was the case with the original beta, that maybe that's going to carry over as well, unless there won't be any character customizations or anything like that in the new game, which would kind of upset me a little bit. But I mean, at the end of the day, I don't believe this is the end result, because again, the game this is mostly a stress test. Holy fuck it, my game. This is more of a stress test than anything. I don't believe this is hey, this is our final product, hope you enjoy. So, since there's going to be a lot more to it, there's going to definitely be a lot more to it, and hoping, that character customization is going to stay and be just as good as it was before. But what I'd actually prefer to happen is have your characters carry over completely. I'd rather much have the character that I created that I've grown fond of over the years to carry around with me. I think that would be a much better thing. Again, I am just speculating that that might not be the case, but I'm pretty sure it will be. I'm pretty sure the game will give me the option to transfer my old character over. It's of course not going to transfer my weapons and shit since I was destroyed, but I think having the same character and stuff like that would be a cool aspect to have. So I'm hoping that's the case for sure.
Zone C lost.
I also hope, I like these 4v4s. I think they're actually well balanced and fairly fair. However, I do think that we should provide a 6v6 game mode as well. I think that would be fun. So having the 6v6 and 4v4 playlist, so you could choose. You could have like 4v4 or 6v6. You know, give the people the option to do what they want to do. Right? I think that would make the game really fun. I think that would open up a lot more options and a lot more avenue streams of different style of gameplay, because I mean there are a lot of people who like 6v6 and there's a lot of people who are enjoying this 4v4. I think the 4v4 is a little bit more balanced and less of a clusterfuck. I think they definitely took all of the aspects that I did not like in PvP, where it was like, no matter what happened, like once the enemy started getting, you know, a little bit ahead, that it was just a slump fest. Everybody on the other team was getting fucked. And it could go both ways. Like it could be my team that just, you know, pulled a little bit ahead and then ended up giving the enemy team a nice fest. Or it could be the other way around, where it's my team getting a fuck fest. And I think what they've changed in this, at least what it seems like based off of this game mode, is having smaller players that allows, rather than, you know, 6 people swarming 6 people, or, you know, 6 people who run in a group, it forces people to stick together because there's only going to be 4 of them. As well as having a smaller map that allows more,
I love it!
With a smaller map, it allows people to stick near each other more, and you know, creates a more team-esque game style where, you know, 2 people can go and attack one objective and murder a guy who's guarding it, and then 2 people can go and do the same thing at the other objective, and it's just like, you know, a 2-pronged attack that is really only capable on these smaller maps.
Have advantage.
And it's just something that players do naturally. You'll see a player running one direction, and a player will follow you. And to me, that's something that, you know, on a bigger map, everybody seems to have their own thing, their own way of going, and they don't like to deviate from that very often. And I think that allows for players who realize that on the other team, who are, you know, in a party or something along those lines, to open themselves up to find the spot that these other people are going, and just basically camp them out, which basically just creates a slaughter corridor where, you know, the enemy team has now figured out where the majority of the enemy team is going, and they'll just lay into you every time they're walking through. And I think to avoid that, they've done a decent job with using smaller maps and shit like that. I think this whole style of gameplay is just a lot nicer.
Double kill.
I think that as a whole, this game is really, really taking a good turn, especially in the PvP aspect. I have yet to see very much of PvE, or not PvE, but like player versus the ads, right? Or is that PvE? I always assumed it was PvP is player versus player, and then PvP was player versus everyone, but I think it stands for player versus entity. So if it is player versus entity, then yeah, the PvP aspect of it, PvE aspect, would be something that I haven't really got to experience much of. I've got to experience a strike, and I've got to experience that first story mission. But aside from that, there hasn't really been much deviation from those two things. It's still going to be the same story mission, and you only have access to that story mission if you create a new character. So for me, you know, if I create another character, I get to experience that mission again. But at the end of the day, I'd much rather be playing through this. So I think that the deviation is the deviation from
Zone advantage is
PvE,
yours.
or shit, what was I saying? The deviation from, you know, having
1
the
minute left.
PvP
Zone
seems
A
to be
lost.
greater. Like, they're putting a lot more emphasis on their PvP this time, I believe, than they did the last time. And I think that's a good thing, because I think a lot of players wish that Destiny had a better PvP experience in the first place. So I think that providing this option for them and giving them this avenue that's a lot better and a lot more
victory.
finely polished compared to the first Destiny is it's just it's better all around. I think the new PvP experience is just it's a better experience in general. But for for like the story missions and shit like that, without having a full grasp into it, it's not as I can't really form an opinion on that. I do believe that they've changed Crucible though greatly. I think the Crucible is beautifully done. My only issue is going to be, I think that a lot of players are going to miss the 6v6 aspect of it. I think I will too. I think there's certain game modes, like for larger maps or things of that nature, where having multiple, more than 4 players just makes it more fun. And I think that would be something cool to add on, right? Having 6v6 and 4v4 as well. They can put their eggs on 4v4, like put most of their eggs in that basket, but I do believe that having a few options for players who aren't a fan of this 4v4 would be beneficial both to them and for the player base to have more options and more fun and a more well-received final product. But other than that, I mean, the gameplay to me looks like it just looks beautiful. It's well polished, it's well put together. There's no real loose ends so far that I've found. The only time I've ever had any connection issues was on the first day when they just booted up the servers, and there was a few issues connecting to the server, but other than that, when the servers were first launched, I haven't had any issues except for yesterday as well, when I was streaming. But, I mean, again, streaming uses internet, as well as connecting to online servers uses internet, so I'm putting a strain on my internet. Especially considering I'm playing over the Wi-Fi rather than hardwired, it's going to be a little bit more cumbersome and a little bit more difficult for my my internet to do what it needs to do to keep me happy and keep me connected. Fuck. I think though that the game is fun, and I think that it's a beautifully well put together game. I think it's been polished nicely, and I hope the rest of the game gets the same level of polish as this. It's happened in the past where people launch a beta and it's like this beautifully polished thing, and then they turn around and give players this very shitty full game experience. And I think that's I'm hoping that's not the case here. I'm actually hoping that you know, Destiny continues with this proof of concept that they're providing here in this beta,
30 seconds
and providing
counting.
the players with a game that is polished to the same level and is put together with the same level as this beta has been. I think that the servers are doing a lot better than they did in Destiny 1. There's very, very little lag. The only time I had any issues with lag was yesterday when before I finished my second stream. And I think that the game has been altogether well established and put together. I think this is a great footing. What they've started here, and I think they gotta continue it. Whether it be for PvP or whether it would be for the story modes or the strikes or the raids or whatever it happens to be that they're gonna, you know, put all of their work behind. I think they need to
Enemy charge has been set. You know what.
I think they just need to, you know, work on it and make sure that everything else is as perfect as this is, because this is really just well put together. This is really well, you know, it's a beautiful game so far.
great to be alive.
That was clutch. Last
Detonate
person
those
alive.
charges. Nothing else matters.
I came in around the back. That was a beast. Yeah, but I think the game is nice. I like it so far.
One minute. Charge is set. Prepare yourself. You hammered them. Do it again. If those charges explode, all is lost. Defend them.
Yeah, I'm loving the game so far, though. I think that what could go wrong hasn't gone wrong. I don't think they let the actual game, like, you know, sometimes game developers, they come up with a game that's well received, and then they ride out that name. Like, for example, the Call of Duty franchise. As much as they have released some decent games, there's also some bad games that they've released, and I think that the best, the easiest show of that is, you know, like a few of the newer examples where the game was just not received very well, and in turn, people were, you know, did not enjoy it. They did not
Double kill. What could
purchase
stop
the
you
game.
if you
They,
fight
you know,
together?
they just weren't happy.
Nothing.
And
The
I
enemy
think
team
that
is gone, but the charge remains.
that goes to show that
Defuse it.
sometimes it takes a company to start losing money before they realize, you know, maybe it's time to stop writing on a name and to start put our best foot forward. And I think that, you know, I think that Destiny is not relying on its name at this point in time. I think that Destiny is still employing people who give a shit, people who care, and I think, you know, their team and their partners and at Bungie and Activision are so far not really. Well, I mean, Activision's probably in this more for the money than anything, but I do believe that as in terms of the rest of the game, like the rest of the people involved, which would be Bungie and a few other people who cannot remember at this time, are not writing this game out as this, you know, oh cool, we've got this game that did wildly successful. Let's you know, ride out the name. I think that the people who are running this place, this show, care. People who are doing this have a genuine appreciation and a general respect towards the people who are purchasing the game. And I think it shows in the work that they're producing. If they didn't just decide, hey, we're done with Destiny 1, we see the players are starting to leave, let's bring out Destiny 2, bring those players back, bring new players in, and get a fuckload of money out of them. I think they wanted to create a game that was better. And that shows. I mean, hell, they were upset that they couldn't make Destiny 1 better. A lot of people don't realize this, and I've probably told this story many moons, or many times, is in Destiny 1, they were, they had a game, like if you look at the E3 trailers and you look at that shit, they had a game that was supposed to be a fuck ton different than the game they actually put on the show. What ended up happening, and this was revealed in when people were asking, you know, one of the leaders at Bungie, who was in charge of the development of this game, Dej, or however you pronounce his gamer name, and he was doing an AMA on Reddit, and people asked, you know, why was there such a drastic difference Why was there so much less content in the full release of the game than there was in the beta and in the trailers and
Enemy
shit?
has detonated the charge.
And it turns out what ended up happening is a lot of the people who were backing them, like investors and people like that, pulled out. They had voice actors pulling out. They had
Detonate those charges.
investors
Nothing else
backing out. And without, you know, naming names, because, you know, that's probably the shittiest thing to do in the business, you know, they were just basically saying, we tried to build a good game. We had voice actors, we had story creators, we had money, and all of these people who were wanting to support us in the creation of our game. And next thing you know, they lost them. They lost those people. They lost the support. They needed, you know, they needed the support, they needed the help, and they weren't getting it. So what ended up happening is, without that extra money that they needed, without, you know, all of that shit, they had to let voice actors go. They had to get people... They had to let voice actors go. They had to change up the story. They had less money, less resources, less support. And this all happened within 2 months of the game supposed to be fully released. So they had, you know, a lot of the game was mostly done and polished, and they already had plans for some of the DLCs. And now it's like, okay, we can't include finish this scene anymore because this voice actor left and this voice actor left. Oh shit, we can't have this as a future, you know, we can't continue the story in a DLC because this character is gone, so now we're going to have to remove this part of the story because we don't have the voice actor, we don't have the money for the people who are developing this portion of it, or whatever it happens to be. And they made a lot of cuts last minute because they couldn't afford it. They didn't have what they needed in terms of the support and the manpower, and they weren't able to, you know, to just keep their feet on the ground. They weren't able to do what they needed to do. And the shitty part about that is the first game had issues because of it. And not only did the first game have issues, you know, a lot of people did not like playing the game at that point. People were mad that, you know, they pre-ordered based off of the beta and everything, and then they released this game that was nothing like what they had promised. And they were mad at that too. They were pissed off that that's the case. They were pissed off that they couldn't produce the game that they showed in their trailers, the game that they showed in their you know, in their beta, because they lost backing, they lost actors, they lost all of the things that they needed to make this shit work. And what ended up happening was the game suffered because of it.
Only 1 minute left.
They lost out on a lot of good potential in that game.
All opponents down. A powerful finish.
One thing I realized after I found that out is that despite the cards being stacked against them severely, they pulled out a fairly decent and fairly well-polished game despite getting completely fucked over in the last few months of development and polishing. So despite the servers being bad, despite there being issues with the gameplay, and despite the complaints that, you know, the game they were showing was different than the game they released, they did fairly well for me to enjoy it, the game, and keep coming back to the game despite those cards being stacked against them. And to me, after seeing that success and knowing that a lot of people enjoyed the game, by them making a new Destiny, knowing that they were going to have success, having other people see now that they were having success, was going to allow them to, you know, have more actors, to have more of this, to have more of that, and to create a better overall game in the end. Because that was one of the things that the backers who left in Destiny 1 were saying. They basically came out and said to the people at Bungie, like, hey, this game is way too popular, right? The game's way too popular for them. They're worried that because of its popularity and shit like that, that that by putting their name on it, they would get screwed over. That they didn't think that the game was good enough to deserve all this hype, and they were worried that if they put their name, whether it have been an actor who put their name on it, or a company that gave Bungie money to help produce the game, these people were scared that because of the reaction of the fans, because of how much hype was generated by the beta and the trailers and all of this other shit, that if they put their name on it and it tanked, it would look terrible on them. So they left. They didn't feel comfortable putting their name on something that was bringing so much attention to itself. And despite all of that happening, they pulled out a pretty fucking good game. And I knew that because they pulled out a good game with the odds stacked against them, that with the odds no longer stacked, when they had, you know, people who were diehard fans, people who were willing to pay for the game, who were willing to put, you know, their time and effort into playing this game and, you know, showing their support for Bungie, knowing that that was going to be something that happened, I knew that this game was going to be a good game. I knew Destiny 2 had to be good, and that's why I just put my money in. And I'm glad I did, because I was, based off of what I've seen, I am 100% right. The game is well polished, it's well put together, and it's honestly
5 minutes.
Like at least 5 to 10 times better than Destiny 1 was. In Destiny 1, when I played that on PS3, I had so many issues with servers, so many issues with leveling up, so many issues with getting exotic bounties, exotic quests, all of these things that just made me frustrated, made me upset when I played the game. No matter how much time and effort I could put into the game, I would never get the Gjallarhorn, or never get the Icebreaker, or never get these guns that I wanted to get. And it just stressed me the fuck out. And then they changed how that worked. They changed, you know, the exotic quests. They changed all of this stuff. And I was seeing that they were looking at the complaints that people had about Destiny 1, and they were trying, you know, without making the game too easy, to make it less of a bullshit fest to try and get the shit you were grinding for. And I think that, you know, for a company to, you know, normally companies don't change anything about their game unless it's game breaking. They'll release a game, they'll release DLC, and then once the DLC has come out and everything's done with that game, they release a new game, and then maybe about 50% of the time in that new game, they change some of the things that people were complaining about. But a lot of the times, they actually don't. They just keep it the same. And I think that, because of that,
you have advantage.
Because of that, I think that,
AC lost.
oh fuck, what was I gonna say? I think because of that, you know, it shows how much Bungie truly cares. The fact that they, you know, they weren't like, yeah, okay, we'll change this shit when we release a new game. They made bug updates, patch updates, they put all of this time and effort into changing aspects of the game that people were about to try and make it a more enjoyable experience for their fan base, for the people who wanted to play the game. They tried. And I think that's just a beautiful, beautiful...
Zone B lost.
I think that's just beautiful. I think the way they did it and how they handled it and how they went above and beyond what most other game companies do to try and give their fan base, the people who pay their salaries by buying these DLCs and pre-ordering these games, what they were asking for to the best of their ability. And I think that just, you know, is what set them above and beyond the other people in my eyes. And now, knowing that they had that ability, knowing that they did that, and seeing what they were able to do with the cards stacked against them, and seeing all of this shit, I just sort of had to assume that they were going to release a really good game. And based off of that, they are doing that. They are doing what I expected them to do. To polish the game, make it beautiful, make it smooth. Like, you might not even realize this. This isn't even, I don't even think this is 60 FPS or 4K. But right now, this looks leaps and bounds better than Destiny 1. This game looks like it could be in 4K right now. But like, it might not translate to the stream, what I'm saying, but on my TV right now, which isn't a 4K TV, it's an LED HD TV. And it looks like it could be, like I'm looking at this through 4K. It looks crisp, it looks clean, it looks polished, and it's not even 60 FPS. I believe the Destiny 2 right now is 30 FPS. And if it looks this good on console, for those PC gamers out there who are, who could tune into this and wonder to themselves, is this game worth it? Will this game even look good on PC? It looks absolutely breathtaking. Excuse me, sorry about that. It looks absolutely breathtaking on PS4 right now. And I don't have the PS4 Pro, I don't have any, like Super HD or 4K or 8K or whatever TV. I just have an LED HD TV and a PS4 Slim. That's what I have, not a PS4 Pro, not this, 4K curved LED HD TV, just a simple, like 22 inch or whatever TV, or 32 or whatever the fuck the size of the screen is. It's not a big beefy TV, it's not this overpowered, overclocked thing with amazing graphics. It's just a simple HD TV with a, my PS4 is only one step up from the first. It went PS4, then PS4 Slim, and then PS4 Pro. I don't even have a PS4 Pro, and this thing is packing heat. It is working this game beautifully. And not only that, but it's so smooth, crisp, and fluid, even at 30 frames per second. For people who are used to seeing things in 60 FPS, whether it be on TV or through other video games or other means, would be able to look at, something that's 30 FPS and be able to see, some jittering or whatever it happens to be that they are able to focus their eye on. And a lot of the people who I've talked to in my circle of friends who, they do PC gaming or whatever, and have seen this beta and some of the content, they honestly thought it was 4K. One of my friends was like,
Control.
wow, I can't believe they were able to get a 4K game running on the PS4. And I'm like, it's not 4K. Another one of my friends was like, holy fuck, man, this game is like beautiful, running 60 frames per second. And I came right out and said, according to the stats, according to what we've been told by Bungie, this game at its current stage is not at 60 FPS, it's at 30 FPS. This game is not set to be a 4K game. It's set to be, 1080p or, scaled up 4K, which is something companies do now, is they release a game that is 1080p high definition, and then not only do they, they release a game and then they have it set in the code that if the system you're running it on has 4K capability, to upscale it to a 4K. So, this might be upscaled to 4K, which is, it's still technically less than 4K. It's probably, when they say upscale 4K, it's basically just, it's written in the code of the game that, this system can, basically handle 4K to upscale it. So it'll go from 1080p HD to being like 2K HD. So it's still not 4K. It's better than 1080p, but it's definitely not 4K. But it looks like it could be 4K. It looks like it's running like about 60 FPS. Maybe 45 frames per second, I'd say, is what this game probably is running right now. But it's set to, be able to, it's basically made to look good, even if it's running at 30 FPS. So just having it at 45 roughly frames per second, this thing is looking decent. And I can only imagine how good it's gonna fucking look on PC, man. When you can get overclocked PCs and graphics cards and shit that can run games that make them look better than looking out a fucking window.
Zone A lost.
And it's like, how the fuck can graphics like this be possible? You look at a TV and it's like that. I think that Destiny is going to be the same way. This game is going to be leaps and bounds above any other game ever released on PC. going to be one of the best looking games, I think, for PC of this year. It's going to be beautiful. So if you're a PC player, or, you know, would rather play this on PC than on fucking, you know, because some people would rather play this on PC. Now that some of the guys I used to play on console with are switching to PC because they're PC gamers more than they are console gamers, and they are gonna love the look of this.
A strong start.
It is gonna be beautiful on PC. So whatever you do, man, just get this game. I don't care what you are, you know, like what your game style is, what system you play on. Like if you play on PS4, if you play on PC, fucking do it. Get this game. Don't even hesitate.
I could not ask for a better
Don't even hesitate. This game is too beautiful to pass up on, and that's the truth. This game's just fucking beautiful. Yeah, anyway, I've probably rambled on for I don't know how fucking long about this game, but I'm just excited, man. Like, as a person who, you know, I'm a gamer. I like to game. I like to play video games. I enjoy playing games with my friends or by myself, or, you know, just shooting the shit online, having a good time, whether it be on, like, a Grand Theft Auto, Fallout 4, Call of Duty, Destiny, like the first Destiny, whatever it happens to be. I just love having fun, and this game is fun. It's just beautifully put together. It's well polished, well received, well everything. It's just a downright good fucking game. And that's, you know, not to say that there isn't going to be times when there's going to be, you know, server issues or whatever. Of course there's going to be. No servers are perfect. No game release is going to be flawless. But for a beta release to be this good, I think is, like, amazing. I still remember some of the issues people were having. If I remember correctly, there were issues with the beta for Battlefield 1, where people who, you know, pre-ordered and got early access to that beta, you know, basically they paid money to get early access before the open beta, and they got screwed over because there was a lot of issues with the server, a lot of people taking servers down, DDoS attacks, and, you know, it was still a decent beta from what I got to experience of it. I had my fair share of connectivity issues. I had a friend who got to sit in a party with us and listen to us play Battlefield 1 beta for hours on end, but he couldn't log in. There was just something wrong with his computer, and it just wasn't allowing him to connect to the servers, or not his computer, sorry, there was something wrong with his internet or something, and he just wasn't able to get a hold of it. He wasn't able to play the game with us, and he was so pissed off at it. And for a beta, though, that's commonplace, and I have not heard any issues with people having issues connecting to the server or anything. I think, again, though, this is going to be a smaller portion. I think people who are getting early access right now on the PlayStation servers, you know, is very slim compared to the people who are going to be playing the open beta. And I think the same thing is going to end up going for Xbox as well. Is that, yeah, this is, you know, we're not having any server issues now, but I think, you know, come the start of the open beta, I think there's going to be some issues. I do believe, though, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe on Destiny 1 came out for PS3 and PS4 as well as Xbox 360 and Xbox One, and I believe that I don't know if I'm 100% right on this, but I believe one of the things I heard for why their servers are shit is that they grouped the consoles together for their servers, despite them not being together. So it was like, you know, okay, so if you're playing Xbox 360 and PS3, we're running our servers for you guys through the same area, right? Now, despite, you know, there not being cross-platform play, where, you know, I can, you know, shoot up some guys playing Xbox, and vice versa, the rumor was that the servers were linked together. So you had two different platforms using the same bank of servers, and then you had the servers for the higher up consoles, the PS4 and the Xbox One, and you had those two consoles grouped together. Now, the servers for those, they were way better than the servers for PS3. In my experience, you would go through a loading area while driving on your Sparrow, from switching from one spot of a planet to another, and there were times where you would just be loading for 30 minutes before the game would catch up and put you in. There were times when, it would take like a minute to do the connection, where on PS4, I only had a connection issue like that where I was traveling from one spot to another, where it happened. There were a few times where it would like freeze your Sparrow in midair for maybe like 3 or 4 seconds, and then you carry on. The only time I ever got a connection issue was when the servers, they were having server issues that day.
Only 5 minutes left.
And I unfortunately got stuck on a loading error where my game told me
lost.
there was no, they could not connect to the server. And I think that, despite that, the servers were completely leaps and bounds better. And I think what they're doing now is they're separating. If the previous rumor that I heard was true, I know for sure, though, that there's no way they're grouping the servers together. I think PS4 has its own designated server system, Xbox One has its own, and PC's going to have its own designated server system. I think that for those of you who are playing Xbox, I think you guys are going to enjoy this game. Unfortunately for you guys, though, PS4 is getting exclusive work. Because PlayStation has actually been a very big supporter of Bungie in a lot of its games, in terms of it, like providing a platform for it to boost off of, providing, giving them time in, the Sony conference to promote their games at E3s and shit like that. They've really helped open Destiny to a new world of players. And I guess to thank PlayStation for doing that for them, they're giving PlayStation and their players early access to things like early access to the beta. We got this earlier than those on Xbox One, and I believe it's going to be the same. We're going to have a certain level in Crucible that we have early access to, that I don't think Xbox is going to have until after the first year of the game. I think that this game is just, I think that's the only downside I would imagine for you Xbox players, is that you guys aren't getting these extra bonuses that us PS4 players are getting. And that's obviously going to stay a little bit, but it's just what happens. Sometimes Microsoft is willing to put their money behind a game and support it. Sometimes they're not. And I don't think they were willing to support Bungie for Destiny. They definitely supported Bungie with Halo, considering Halo was not just, yeah, we'll give Xbox extra perks. Halo was an Xbox-only game. So, I mean, clearly Bungie, does have a soft spot for Microsoft, and vice versa. Microsoft has a soft spot for Bungie because they supported each other. But I do believe that
Oh, I can't wait to see what you do with that. Zone A lost.
I think in terms of right now, this the game is just it's just coming along. That's all I can really say. I'm rambling on about this, that, and this. I just think if whatever system you're playing on, it doesn't matter. If PlayStation's going to get access to some shit a little bit before or vice versa. This game is just beautifully put together. Everybody's going to enjoy it. There's not much more to say than that. Just get the game, have your fun. You're going to love every minute of it. You really will. Every minute, every second.
Double down.
This game is just beautifully put together, beautifully engineered. and I think that, you know, it just shows in the final product.
Only 1 minute left.
The only issue right now is, of course, that since Destiny was a console-only game at first, there's of course not going to be any. There's going to be some issues there in terms of, you know, it's a new platform they're working with now. They're not going to, you know, necessarily be used to all the ins and outs of PC, the PC user base, the server styles that would be needed to run a game on
30
PC.
seconds remaining.
Things like that are not going to be, you know, perfectly set out. I think there might be some issues there in terms of servers and stuff like that for PC, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as it was in Destiny 1 for the lower-end consoles in terms of that. The issues there they had in the servers. I think the servers are going to be pretty fucking good for PC. The only issue, of course, with having a game included on PC and console is the capability difference. For PC, it's going to be a 60 FPS game. It's going to be 4K compatible, like not upscaled to 4K, but full 4K video, because, you know, you're able to get, you know, in a, you know, built computer or a gaming laptop, all of the things for specs and whatnot that you need to run that game at those levels of intensity, that currently with the limiting size factor of console, like, you know, to get the same amount of computing power as a computer and still keep it as a portable console would still be an impressive feat. You'd be looking at a fairly decent sized console, and a fairly loud one too, to in terms of, you know, the amount of energy it would take and the fans it would take to cool the thing and all of that shit. But I think that aside from that, this game is, you know, it's going to be beautiful on PC. It's going to be for sure 60 FPS, for sure 4K. It's going to have its own set of servers, but because this game, they're building two sets of the game, they're basically what they're doing is they're creating the game for console. That's how they're doing it right now. So they've got this beta set up, and they've made it and polished it for console, so it looks as great as it could ever look for those console players. And then what they're doing is they're sending it off to a secondary team, this team who specializes in, you know, creating games for a PC style environment, and they're going to take, you know, this stream that you're seeing right now, and they're going to, you know, enhance and upscale and everything, add extra frames, make everything more smooth, more polished, and they're basically just taking a finished game, unfinishing it, and then refinishing it at a higher standard, so that way it'll be the best game possible for the PC setting. Which is, of course, why the beta for PC is not happening until around middle to the end of August, roughly. And the game is also not coming out for PC. I think, like, they said October to November, they said, was when PC is getting Destiny 2. And yeah, that's definitely going to burn some people and sting for some people who are looking forward to get their hands on this game for PC. But you gotta remember, they're building it for console, and then they're building it for PC. So that's why it's gonna take a little bit longer. Anyway, I've been streaming for a bit now. I'm kinda tired, I'm still sick, so I'm gonna call the stream here. But if I have to leave on a note, you know, after my first day of playing Destiny and everything, this video has basically just been my impressions on the game. And to end out on a note, for those of you who could be watching the stream or whatever, as a way to gauge whether you should get the game, I have to tell you the God's honest truth here. This game, in terms of its polish, in terms of how well it runs, like how well the servers run, how well the gameplay, how smoothly the game is running, you know, the frames per second, the quality of the, you know, the content, all of these things, you know, if I were to rate that aspect of the game out of 10, I'd give it a solid 8.5 out of 10. I think this game right now is very smoothly run, is very beautiful, very polished, and very well put together. I think there's some issues still that I think are going to occur when there's more people. I think right now the servers aren't being loaded, of course, to their full potential, and it's going to be a lot harder for these servers to run come to come the open beta and the full game release. And I do believe that in preparation for that, I cannot give this game a solid 10 because I don't know what it's going to be like when it's fully tested and fully put under a load of stress, as millions of gamers sign up or log in for the first time when the open beta starts. I believe that as of right now, the server quality, the gameplay quality, the polish and everything is a 8.5. In terms of the story I've seen, the Crucible aspects that they've changed to make the game better, even that one strike that I played, to me those are like a 9.5. I think they're pretty much as good as they're gonna get. I don't, and that's just based off of first impressions. Like, I haven't played the full story mode, I haven't played every strike, I haven't played a raid, and I haven't played every map and every game mode of Crucible, but from what I've seen, I can solidly say this is like a 9.5. I think, in terms of potential for this game, if I'm rating the potential of this game on a scale of, 1 to 10, I believe the potential for this game to get better, like, what level the game could become, I believe this game is at a 10 out of 10. I believe this game has the capability, on a full release to be a perfect 10 out of 10 score on every aspect. I believe that full-heartedly. I think, based on what I'm seeing in the beta, I'd say if the beta was a direct reflection, like one-to-one reflection of what the final game was going to be, then I would give the game as a whole an 8. I believe that this game is capable to be better and will be better, and is going to gain itself a 10 out of 10 score, or a perfect score on various forms of gaming rating websites and forums and whatever. It's going to be one of the best games of the year, highest selling games of the year, fastest selling games of the year. It's going to be a great game in terms of all of that. So I based off of that score, I'd say as a whole right now, the beta experience I've had is an 8 out of 10. So, 8 out of 10 for a beta is pretty damn good, in my opinion. And I honestly think that after this beta and after all the stress testing and everything else that they're going to do at Bungie, that come the full release of this game on September 6th, and for everybody else, but for me, who's pre-ordered the digital deluxe edition and everything, if I remember correctly, one of the bonuses I got is I get to play the game a day early, and anyway, without getting into all of these details, I think this game is going to be beautiful. I think the game is going to be a perfect game. I cannot see any issues with this game at this point, and I don't think there will be any issues for the first year of this game. I think the biggest test of their creators over at Bungie, who are working and developing on this game, is going to be how they continue pushing the envelope, how they continue to build DLC and make it stand up to what they release immediately. I think every game has a strong initial release, and then bugs and stuff start coming as DLC and shit starts being added. And that's when the game starts to get stale, is right around the time somebody tosses in a DLC. And I want to see, personally, how they handle that. If the game is gonna get to a point where it's so stale that people drop off before seeing a DLC and then don't even come back for it. Is the game going to start to get dry right around the same time a DLC drops, so interest peaks right back up again? Or will the game be a consistently good game all throughout, in between DLCs, during DLCs, after DLCs, or during the full release of the game, if this level of you know, intensity, beautiful creation, and, you know, just everything that makes this game what it is, if that level will continue or if it'll start to plateau over time. And, I mean, only time will tell. Only a full release of the game will tell. But I think that so far they're doing a really good fucking job with this game. And that's the truth. Anyway, guys, thank you for tuning into this stream. If you caught the stream live, I'm glad you could. If you're watching this later on and on my channel, hey, glad you made it to the end of the video. If you guys did make it to the end and you enjoyed what you saw, don't forget to leave a like, favorite, comment, subscribe, do what you do. Show a little love. Believe me, guys, it helps me out a bunch. We're getting close to that 100 subscriber milestone there. You know, any little bit of help and support to push me over that milestone is greatly appreciated. And as always, thanks for watching.